process, and I'm gonna tell you a few very personal things in this process as well. So we haven't discussed anything of what's going to happen over the next 3 minutes, and this is what we do. We stand for and we perform an entirely improvised kind of music. People call it jazz, but we're thinking of a name for it because it's a lot more hybrid. And let's see what happens in the next 3 minutes. We didn't plan a second of this, and I don't know if you felt it, but I felt that there were points here where we both went to the same place. And this is the magic of the creative arts, of performance, especially when there are two people or more. So this is what I'm going to discuss with all of you. I'm glad we had this moment, and I'm glad we could share this moment, because this is what happens when we write songs. And it goes beyond our control. We are all of a sudden, two people are one person is somebody else, and that somebody else keeps changing. So we wanted to discuss this concept of us being many people, and of each one of us, just like he said. All of us are essentially the same. It doesn't matter where we are. We're all stars. We all have it in us. We're all artists. And you know, if I were to get off stage right now and ask all of you, where did you sing? A lot of you would say, well, I like to sing, but I'm a bathroom singer. And that's something I've been hearing for the longest time. I mean, either people are shy, but I wanna talk about this entire concept of bathroom singing, why it is so common everywhere in the world, and what makes it so natural to us. And you know, we find it stupid, we don't talk about it, we diss our singing by calling ourselves bathroom singers. But what is it? What is it about the bathroom that is so amazing? Okay? No, really. Okay, so most importantly, it's a private space. You go there often enough, and hopefully alone. But bath and you have to, I mean, the most important thing is that you remove your clothing. And yes, I know, it's funny, but it's not. Because our clothes stand for us. You know, how we think, our gender role, our chosen gender role, what we feel about how we should buy clothes, how we should dress, you know, our age, everything reflects in the clothes that we wear. And so all of a sudden we move into the space where there are no clothes and you can now rebuild yourself. You have that, it's a place of flux, it's like an empty canvas. You can be anybody, any age, any sex, anything. Okay? And then there's water. And we generally choose to bathe in a way that relaxes us. So ideally, it brings about technically a lengthening of muscles, broadening, deepening, all of that. And what happens is that is the first step that we learn when we are doing any kind of training in music or in dance. So that's what we do, we break into song. And it's then that the most intense process of creation really happens, because you're rebuilding yourself. You're becoming this person singing to 1 million people, or you are becoming this person who's singing to a loved one, or you're, forget about singing. People rehearse things in the bathroom. People rehearse their speeches. You know, I didn't, I wish I should have. But people, they do rehearse things, and they project themselves into the future. You know, so you're kind of enacting, anticipating something, and you're trying to become that. And where is the negotiation then? You know, because you guys must have read in the title that we said negotiating selves. So all these other selves are projections of what we want to be, okay? Someday I want to sing to 1 million people, I'm showering, and I'm living out that fantasy of mine. At the same time, I am so many different people in that little spot, okay? I'm reaching out for soap, or my alarm is ringing, and I said, oh shit, I need to leave. And all of a sudden, you know, you are all these people under a span of 30 seconds. You've already passed all these things. I want to be this, I am this, I'm enacting this, I need soap, oh my phone is ringing. You know, and so this particular thing that we live out on an almost daily basis is very similar to what we live out as artists. So I could probably pass the mic over to Adil, because something that is very, very similar to bathroom singing to people who don't connect much with singing is air guitar playing.
Can you guys hear me? Yes? Yeah, okay. So, how familiar is this? How many of you guys have rocked out after the party, you know, like, hey, none of you guys? You walk out of a club and, you know, you're like, let's play, you know, let's, I mean, even though you haven't really picked up a guitar, I hope you have probably, but you know, you're not a guitar player. So air guitar is the equivalent of bathroom singing for all those who don't have a voice, or like me, are too scared to sing, you know, talk. And I did a lot of this. I did a lot of this when I wasn't playing guitar. And I did a lot more of it after starting playing guitar, because I could, you know, figure out where the notes were, you know. So where did this all come from? For me, music kicked off really early, you know. I mean, I've been blessed that there was always great music playing at home, and it actually came from home for me. So I kind of knew from the beginning where I was heading, you know. Unlike a lot of us who made this choice later, it kicked off very early for me. My parents were like, you know, had done their scene in the 60s and 70s, if you know what I mean, you know, all that stuff. And there was always like Led Zeppelin and Doors, Joan Baez, Peter Frampton, you know. We had the Woodstock VHS tapes at home. So I grew up on all of that stuff, you know. So by the time I reached, by the time I was in 8th, you know, by the time I was in class 8, all I wanted to do was just play guitar, you know. I just wanted to play it. I didn't want to study, you know, geography, history. Who the hell get out of the backbench? I would dream, I would write, I would draw band names and guitars in my copy, you know. And that's how I kind of kicked from there, you know, like school bands, rock music, all of that stuff. All of that was pretty much normal till I actually I was introduced to jazz music, and that's when the journey actually began. Thelonious Monk, how many of you heard of this guy? Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, wow. Hey, guys, if you haven't heard these people, you should. You're probably listening to well, you know what, you should. This is real music, Get your hands on this, leave the Justin Biebers alone. This is the real stuff, And when I was introduced to him, there was a strange connect. There were many things that I wanted to express musically, but I couldn't because I was still a novice. I hadn't improved and worked on my technique. I didn't ever have a teacher actually because they were both self-taught. We used to hang out with the greats, on our tape players. So when I heard Monk's music, it just transported me elsewhere because, his music is very unorthodox. Besides the common form of the blues, that's all he has as a standard, His music is dissonant, it will take some people off. In fact, when he was popular, or on the scene in the 60s, many had dissed him as just another madman, rambling about. But his music brought about this revolution that generations from there on till now, are still taking in and learning from and going from there, So this is what I had for company. Thelonious Monk, John Coltrane. How many of you guys know John Coltrane? Come on, guys, Coltrane. Yeah. Nice. Sheets of sound. Their alter egos right there. This one in particular is from one of his biggest albums, not hits, we know it, but Coltrane sound. Please go on YouTube or download it, go to iTunes or whatever, Get Coltrane sound. That was him melting into the sound. This guy, the musicians used to play with him, had this observation that Coltrane's always playing, man. He's like a boxer before a fight. We just stepped in, but if John was here, he would have been backstage 8 hours just playing before he came up here because he was already built up in that sweat. He was already in form, in character, He was already living it. Madmen. I had these madmen to thank. Herbie Hancock. Yes. Herbie Hancock. His music was really far out. This in particular is Thrust, where his band was called Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters, Very futuristic kind of music. You can see it's the 70s, stripped out kind of vinyl cover there with Herbie in a spacecraft. Actually, that's his keyboard, Monks, all those things. Wurlitzers were very popular back then. And and last but not least, my biggest influence and the man who changed the way I really thought about music. I heard his music way early on when I was in class 9, thanks to one of my mentors there, but I didn't understand. It was strange, beautiful music. But when I revisited it around college, I was like, wow, what is this? What have I been doing? The man himself, Alan Holdsworth. How many of you guys know him? He's like the gods, like you might have heard of Satriani and Y and Jimmy Page, all those guys. Well, he's their granddaddy, and he's still hardcore, man. He's never sold out. He's so hardcore that people don't even know him in his own country. He's been playing since the 60s. But he defines hardcore. Alan Holdsworth. There you go. That's his alter ego there. He was a huge Star Trek fan. How many Star Trek fans here? Yeah? Yeah. That was one, So that's where the change actually came about, and this all came about, these guys kind of shaped the way I thought, shaped the way I thought about music, about living life. I did intense research of these guys. I read up on them, what they did, who they hung out with, what they were listening to, and it all soaked in, and I'm glad it happened because the music of Adil and Vasundhara, like when we take it out, you really can't pinpoint one single genre that we actually belong to. A lot of people call us jazz musicians. I think it's a misnomer. We're just musicians, right? we love music. I love everything. I love folk music. I love classical. I love Indian classical. Good music is good music. Just like good art is good art. It could be modern, it could be classical, whatever. So this is where it all kicked off from, and the ideas that we borrowed or stole, like good artists steal. All this kind of is finally taking its shape in a first full-length album that's coming out. That's called Ampersand. Let me elaborate on Ampersand. It's Adil and Vasundhara, and also on this album we have a whole host of styles and things that we just picked out from our imagination. Why don't you elaborate on this? I think better, 15 nights.
Well, I'm just going to talk about one of the songs, 15 Nights to Dawn. Okay. So people often ask musicians how they write, and this is somehow going to connect back into what we are talking about. But how Adil and I work, how we work is more about converting a dreamscape into music. So, there's a certain stimulus that we get from our life, and of course we react to it in a particular way because of the way we are. But eventually it becomes something a lot more mystical. It takes on a form of its own, and sometimes we seem to lose control of where the song is going. It's somebody. It's already somebody. We start talking about the song like we talk about somebody. And what often happens is that we cease to be Adil and Vasundhara. We are now somebody who's two people who are trying to help that somebody to be complete. And that's what happened in 15 Nights to Dawn. It's a song that summons up the sound of war on horseback, something that Adil and I have never lived through. And we hope to never live through. But, it's alien, but it happened. It happened, and that's what came. So, we've always wondered how. And that's where we start talking about altered states of mind, altered personalities that happen during the creative process and on stage. So, this entire concept of the alter ego was proven around the 1700s. But it's always existed before that and after that, used in various contexts, in theatre, in literature, in different kinds of art. And now, in music, it's taken on an entirely different dimension. You see Beyonce, you all know Beyonce. She released that album that said, I am Sasha Fierce, and she explored this other side of her. And she did it as an experiment. And then there are other people who design their alter egos, who say, okay, so Lady Gaga wants to be a boy, and it's lovely, it's great, because you're digging into this part of you that you have not let become. And then all of a sudden, it is this almost caricaturized entity. There are art forms that are entirely based on, you get on stage and you're absolutely nothing of what you are, like drag. And it's absolutely insane to be, to watch something like that, to watch somebody transform so much. And in the beginning, before I started singing, I used to go and watch a lot of gigs. And I had friends who were singers. And I would see, like they change on stage. I'm like, why are they doing this? I think it's stupid. And so when I started gigging, I said, I would be the one. I'm the same on stage and off stage. But that's not true. And it eventually turned out to be not true. Okay, there were times where I would notice a change in me, like I'm stepping into my shoes and tying my hair up and doing whatever. And all of a sudden, the baggage of the day is beginning to fall off. And it became a process. It became a very conscious kind of, I could see it happening. I don't know how much I could control it, but I could see that I was changing. And then we speak about improvised music, we speak about bathroom singing, which is, okay, your own form of improvised singing, and we try to connect it all. And herein lies the negotiation that I wanted to talk about. So it's this really complex kind of situation. So there are people imagine there's a gig happening and there are people waiting for the artist to come on board. And they're already wondering, if they've seen them before, are they going to be as good as last time? Are they going to be better? I mean, what do we expect? What are they going to be like at all? Okay, then there are artists, there are, say, me, Adil, making lists off stage and then also turning into our stage personalities and getting onto stage. We are conscious of it, so we are trying to see, okay, don't overdo it, and be yourself, but no. And then the gig starts. The gig starts, and every song summons up a certain part of you. So every song is a depiction of a certain part of you. You have had an experience, you've experienced an emotion, you've seen a flower, whatever. And so you are that person in that time frame for 4 minutes, and then you're suddenly Adil and Vasundhara talking about the next song, and then again you're entirely somebody else. Okay, so you are juggling all these egos that are also you. Then there is the artist himself. Okay, now I have certain goals for myself as a singer. He has certain goals for himself as a guitar player. And there's a negotiation between the self, the artistic self that I am, and the one that I want to be. Am I any closer than today? Am I feeling good about what I'm doing? So there's a tussle between that. You're trying to get closer to that perfect whatever you want to be. And this entire thing is happening, it's not happening in one place. There's a band, there are 5 people that are feeling that way, that are reacting, that are also, feeding off each other, like we started this talk out doing. And so it's just like in the shower, everything is moving, everything is in flux, everything is pure potential. The same thing happens on stage. There are 5 different people who are morphing in and out of various identities. And those identities, whatever they might be at any instant, are interacting with each other. And and in all that commotion and in all that chaos, there is going to be a moment of stillness and a moment of perfect understanding on stage, off stage, and you can attempt to be honest and really express what's inside your soul. So I think that's why we play. And thank you for having us.